Hello and welcome to the Gangrene UK podcast. Now you've got some more faces on your screen today. We've got Kayn, Steve, and myself, and today we are talking about free agency and a couple of the trades that happened before free agency. Now, I think it's safe to say that a lot of teams have been very busy. A lot of money's been thrown around, and I think the Jets, for the most part, have been fairly cautious with the money. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to go through each individual player's sort of trade. I'll go to one of the guys, trade or free agency. I'll go to one of the guys and we'll ask for their thoughts on that particular player. We'll do a bit about that, and then we'll go into some free agents that are still available at the time of recording, which is Friday afternoon, the 13th of March. So anything that happens after this, we cannot be responsible for. So we're going to go into it. And the first one we had was at the end of February, we traded Jermaine Johnson for T'Vondre Sweat. Now, I would say that this has caused a fair bit of discourse in the fan base. Some like it, some don't. So I'm going to go to one of you to start this off. Now, which one of you guys wants to talk about T'Vondre Sweat and Jermaine Johnson trade?
I mean, I'll take it because I'm probably the one that's most over the moon with this trade.
Go for it.
I mean, I think we discussed it prior that JJ kind of doesn't. He's the odd man out in switching from a 4-3, 3-4, with the 4-3 and the 3-4, and what we've got now is we have now got two absolute legit zero tech, one tech nose tackles, and Sweat he's that guy. He is a massive anchor on that line. He can eat up a double team. And he's a great run block on those two interior lines, which we need that. We need that on rotation because we know Reich likes to kind of rotate. Dunbar likes to rotate in. That's so many names going on this off season. Yeah, so I think it's a great thing. I mean, it's great for JJ as well. He's back with Salah, who can use him and do really good things. I just don't understand how anybody can be upset with this because we've just essentially became a much better run-stopping team. I'm happy.
Steve, Kayn, do we feel the same about this one?
Partially. I mean, as I think both Kayn and Ant know from years gone by, I have perhaps an almost irrational loyalty to our draft picks. Like, I really always want them to do well. If we've drafted them, I want to keep them, And of course, everything Ant says makes absolute sense, and of course it does. It's just one of those things that I would think it's a shame. But of course, so my initial reaction was disappointment that JJ was gone. Because he seemed like a decent guy, and that's always good to have as well, decent people around the place. Once you start to analyse it and think it through, just as Ant sort of talks about it there, you start to go, yeah, okay. Once the head starts to take over from the heart, you can start to look and think, okay, this makes sense. And in fact, I know we're going to talk about the free agent moves as well later on, but when you start to piece all of these things together on the defense, it starts to all make sense as to the direction of travel and of what we want, and therefore you hope you're going to see obviously a much better defense this year as a result. So yeah, I think initial reaction, not so pleased, but once you sit and think about it, cold light of day and all that stuff, yeah, happy enough.
Kayn, thoughts?
Yeah, I actually wanted to get rid of him, to be honest, in the nicest way possible. Everybody was saying McDonald should be traded rather than him, and I'm not gonna. he was quite injury prone as well, which was a bit of a pain. So getting Sweat to beef up the line a bit, it's not. Yeah, it's a good trade.
Yeah, I think I probably agree. I think I like JJ as a person. Like, he seems like he got it and he understood what it was like to be a New York Jet. But the best ability is availability, and I don't think that he had that in. And when you're looking at Will McDonald, he's had Will McDonald's had a 10-sack season. So I think that we're talking about trading one of them. I think it made more sense to trade JJ. So we'll move on. We won't go 5 minutes for every player, but the next trade we're going to talk about, and then we'll get into free agency. So we made a trade just before free agency, which it just makes pure sense to chuck away, well, to send a late round pick, which normally doesn't play out anyway, to get a player you want before free agency. So we traded for Minka Fitzpatrick. Now, I'll start on this one. I absolutely love this. I think financially it makes a lot of sense. 3 year, $40 million deal. So what is that? 13.5 million AAV. I think he's a fantastic safety still in the league. I understand the concerns about his age, but I think for me, when you're talking about elite safeties, I still think he's a top 10 safety in the NFL. I think to get that for reasonable money, sure, but when it's a real position of problem, I mean, the safety position has been an issue with the Jets for a long time. He's still a safety that got a forced fumble last year, an interception, 6 pass deflections. He did a lot more than any safety that played for the Jets last year. So I think it's still a really, really good deal. Is anyone concerned about the age, or is everyone thinking it's maybe a prime sort of thing still?
No,
And I'll come to you.
I think I understand the age issue, but I think everybody needs to realize that Mika's probably going to be playing nickel more than he's going to be playing like open free safety type thing. He pretty much has already said that, but he just brings so much versatility to the backfield, but also a lot of coaching ability on field, which anybody who's had a conversation with me in the last 2 years knows that's huge for me because we haven't had that since we lost CJ Mosley. And yeah, I can't be against a bit of Fitzpatrick. Hated him as a Dolphin, but I'm all good with him coming to the Jets.
He never wanted to be a Dolphin, did he? Really? Let's be honest.
It
Anyone else
was-
got any thoughts on
No one
on
wants to be a
Minka?
Dolphin.
No,
No, no.
no one looks good in teal. It's not a good colour. But I mean, I think to echo Ant's point slightly there as well. Sorry to echo you again, but the age is for me is a bit of a positive because with all the draft picks we've got over the next couple of years, there's a lot of youth we've got and is going to come in. And when we look at the impact of not having Mosley last year, thinking, oh, Sherwood looks great, we'll give him the green dot, and then his play went downhill, the whole defense play went downhill. You're not replacing like but you're still replacing experience with experience. You're bringing someone who knows the game, and like you said, it's that idea of being able to work with those young players and make such a difference to how they can grow and develop, and they can see what it means to be a professional football player as well. So yeah, if in many ways, actually, the age I'm seeing it as a positive.
Yeah. He brings in the leadership kind of role, so as well as being a really good player still. It's all good. And a
I think
bargain
obviously
boy.
like lining him up with Malachi Moore as well, two Alabama guys. I think he will help develop him. Not that I'm not crowning Malachi Moore a bona fide starter at the minute, but I think Minka helps him and brings him on, and you are learning from one of the best safeties in the last 10 years. So no, I think it's a really positive move. I don't really see a lot of negative to it at all. The criticism I've seen online, just to try and play some devil's advocate, because we're not all be positive the whole way through, is a lot of people saying that why would the Jets trade for a player that isn't going to help them win now, because Jets aren't in a win now position. I fundamentally disagree with that as a point. I think that you want to make your football team better. It's not just about making big moves or trading for players when you think you can win. It's also about building a team and making yourself better. I still think Fitzpatrick has a good 2-3 years in him at the top level, so I'm not concerned about that. I think he sees that his whole contract.
Yeah.
So then free agency started. Now, I don't know about you guys. When free agency starts, I'm very much one for going on Twitter, getting up to the top of the page, having all of the journalists, 4 or 5 of them open in different tabs and just refreshing, seeing what flies through. And we had a lot. Free agency was wild. I don't think the Jets made your big marquee signings, but I don't think we were ever going to. I don't think that was ever the plan going into it, and I think that's probably for the best. The first signing the Jets made was Joseph Asay. Now, I have absolutely no issue with this. And I think that if you look for the free agency tracker, it seems to me as we have identified the profile of a couple of vets, but also bringing in guys that are a bit younger. It hasn't completely worked out for them yet, but they've still got a high ceiling. Obviously, say from the Bengals, 5 sacks last year, 2 forced fumbles. It was a Bengals defense that struggled ultimately. So it maybe isn't completely fair to put a lot of blame on him of it's only 5 sacks, it's only 2 forced fumbles. You can't always look at the stats and say that's the whole of the player. It's still a player that I really like. and I think that he does add depth to the edge position. I mean, I'm only concerned with this one really, just from a personal perspective, is that it's a fairly big deal, and I think 22.5 million fully guaranteed is a lot of money. But I think something that people seem to forget with free agency, you always pay more because you're not giving away draft picks, because you're not giving away other capital. You pay more contractually. I don't have an issue with this one. I think it's a perfectly fine free agent signing, and I'm going to bring you in on this one.
This guy is pinnacle of Darren Muji. Pinnacle. Like, not even a little bit. This guy defines what Muji wants. Everybody's like, oh, he's not had the impact. Yeah, because he converted from inside linebacker to edge, which involves massing on weight. He's sitting at 260 at 6'4" now. He had to learn to play at that. He's put his time in. He's high energy, explosive. Love that about him. And you put him in with a defensive line coach that essentially created TJ Watt. I'm expecting him. I think his floor, like you said, his floor is quite high. His ceiling is astronomical. I'm okay with the money. We've paid a lot more money to worse players in the past. This one you could almost, I could almost sand this one over. Like this, it should be unilaterally accepted by all. I'm slamming my pen down.
It's always going to be money, right? People are always going to look at the money, and they're always going to say, "Oh, it's a lot of money for someone that hasn't proved it yet in the league." But you do realize a lot of the time you do have to pay for just the premium of a premium position. If he hits, no one's going to care about the money, and I think that's the point that I make about every free agent. You're not going to care if the player actually hits. Steve, Kayn, any more thoughts on this one?
Well, only that, yeah. The like, if you look at production so far and you look at the money that's being paid, there is a disparity. But as you rightly say, of course, you get into free agency, and of course, you're overpaying. I mean, a couple of little bits I was looking at. I think I saw his did a career high. What was it with pressures on the quarterback there, and pretty good on the pass rush win rate as well. So, that was last year. They were the best. That's the best of his career. Now, obviously, we want him to get even better, but that perhaps shows that ascendancy, and perhaps shows then that making that change to edge, is sort of falling into place in a good position. We hope what will become a good position for him, and when talk about the draft, of course, hope you're going to bring in people that are going to help him around there as well. I think we all know who Ant would like at number 2. He's made that
pretty the Dolphins,
yeah. I mean, I know obviously you want a certain player from that we that we let go at the Dolphins last season, but in terms of the draft, so, and I think we can really help with that as well. So yeah, I think like most people, it's money's a bit much, but as you rightly say, if he performs, no one's going to look at the paychecks.
Yeah, I kind of think like it frees up the edge position a little bit. If you're going to pay him and he's productive last year, like, do we really need to be so bothered about edging the draft? Like, it's one of them, really. Like,
it gives us a bit of
do we
flexibility
need
as
to
well.
draft it too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, that's the thing. Obviously, like it maybe your free agency signings do have a bearing on your draft, and like someone that obviously I really like. I mean, I had David Bailey mocked to the Jets in our last conversation because I think that's the best move. And I don't think that any of the free agent signings stop that happening. I just think that it is more depth. I think that's the thing. And speaking of depth, I can segue nextly into our next signing because it is a very similar ilk. We also signed defensive linesman Kingsley Anagbe. Now, this is a player that I know probably a little bit more about on the basis that I just really liked him in college coming out of South Carolina. I thought he was a really good prospect, went in the 5th round to the Packers, and he's done okay there. I think it's probably the best way to say it, 11.5 career sacks. And he does hit the quarterback a lot. He does have TFLs, pressures. He's played a lot on special teams as well. He's played over 600 snaps on special teams. So I think that the positive from him is that he produced 30 tackles, 5 TFLs, and 6 quarterback hits, and multiple sacks in each of his first 3 seasons. So I think that shows some level of consistency that you do have a floor with him. I think when you sign free agent players, if you've got a decent floor, that is something to go off. He's a good pass rusher. It's a 1 year, $10 million deal. It's a pure prove it deal, having someone on such a short contract and just saying, look, you've shown it, you've shown flashes, now show all of it, show more to us. Again, switch to the 3-4. I think he fits in really well to that system. I'm gonna change it up here. I'm gonna come to Steve first. Steve, how do you feel about this one? Happy?
I mean, it's 1 year. That there's no doubt when you look at it, as you say, the flashes. There's that moment of thinking, okay, this guy might have something, so we'll give you a year. Again, when we look at the money, it's not. We've got a lot of cap space anyway, so it's not a major problem. And I just sort of look at that and think this is one shot, fella. Give it a go. Again, hopefully you're in a good place. Hopefully there's some good people around you, some good players and good coaching, and obviously head coach knows his defense. So this is your chance. You're going to do this or you're not. And if you don't, goodbye and good luck. And if you do, here's a longer contract.
Okay. Okay, are you coming next on this one? Let's switch up the order a bit.
Say answer. Yeah.
And okay,
Yeah.
I don't mind.
Yeah,
Go for it.
I'll jump in. It's one of those where I think if you were going to if we look at it from an edge point, you've got JJ, who we had, Will McDonald, who we've still had. If you mix them together, you're getting a hybrid of what Kingsley can be. Let's be honest, because he sets the edge really well. But if we've got Will McDonald, who is a speed edge on the other side, there's more than likely that 60% of the time Kingsley's going to break through because he's more than what we've had opposite on edges. And yeah, I think it's a good move. I'm happy. Very, very happy. I think he fits the defense really strongly, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him get an extension next year.
Yeah, I remember liking when he was coming out of college and wanting to draft him, and then he went all the way in the 5th round and he's still around, so must be doing something right. Nice depth piece to the line rotational, so it's a good player.
Lovely stuff. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about, I don't need to get up stats or facts or anything about him because every single one of us knows all about him. Now, he's a player that's having his homecoming to the New York Jets. Honestly, I was so happy with this. Like, I think my initial reaction, even without looking into anything other than just, I loved Demario Davis the first time round. He was one of my favourite Jets when he was there the first time round. So I'm really happy about this. I don't really care about the money for this one either. He's someone that's just turned 37 years old. He is essentially on a year by year sort of contract anyway at that age. So look, and I'll let you come in first on this one. Are you really happy to have a true leader, and I think probably one of the best leaders in the NFL back in the locker room?
I mean, this is a no-brainer. I think Demario Davis said it best in his thing. The minute his agent told him the Jets was an option, it was done. And for any Jets fan, the minute we know Demario Davis is even thinking about it's done. Give the man what he wants. Give him a green dot. Let him teach who we've got. Sherwood is a great player, but he does not handle that dot well. You give him a couple of years with Davis, he could be it's a legit position to be in. And yeah, Demario is the guy, isn't he? Very, very, very happy guy.
Steve, you happy about the homecoming?
Absolutely, yeah. All I'll say is the first time we let him go seemed confusing to me because I liked him then. He seemed to be doing well. It was disappointing when he left, so I'm delighted to have him back again.
Good stuff,
Yeah,
Kayn.
It'll be a really good leader for hopefully if we draft some linebackers, he can teach those. Yeah, it was nice to see him coming back. So
I think my point on this probably is that he helped Sherwood out massively because Sherwood's someone that, we paid a big contract, and I feel like he probably still needs to kick on a little bit more. And realistically, at this point in time, I think it's fairly given that the Jets draft Arvel Reese. I'd be pretty surprised if we don't draft Arvel Reese. And look, who better to learn off than Demario Davis? Even it doesn't really matter how we bring even if Alvaro Reese comes in and plays a lot of snaps off the edge and stuff like that, I still think Demario's someone that's going to help him massively and develop in those early years. And do you know what? Yes, it's a $22 million deal, but do you know if he turns Alvaro Reese into Fred Warner, none of you are going to care, are you? Like and that's sometimes what people don't understand is when you're bringing in veteran leadership into a locker room, if they help develop your players, your younger players that are coming in, or your younger players that are currently there, you actually then get multiple players that are getting better, and you have a better system. So no, I'm buzzing with this. I don't see any negative. I don't think the money's ridiculous because his production last year was still really good. He was still playing at a really high level. I don't think it, and you know, there's something to be said about having players that want to be here, having players that want to be a Jet, understand what it's like to be a Jet, and it's a fantastic move. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is another player that I get a strong opinion wants to be a Jet and has got a history with Aaron Glenn. So we're going to talk about David Onyemata. Now, again, slightly older side, more experience in the room. He's 33. Obviously had a lot of years for the Saints, which is where he worked with Aaron Glenn. Last year was a lot of career highs for him, and that's something that's good when you sign an older player. 62 tackles, a sack, 11 quarterback hits in 17 games. He's a very good run defender. He's got obviously a high tackle volume for a DT. I think signing strong run defenders is clearly a brief for this free agency as well. Clearly, we have had an issue for the last couple of years of not being able to stop the run. And we can all sit here and attest to that painfully watching the Jets for the last few years. I love that on you to me the most. Is it's just he's got such a powerful ball rush. His hand usage is amazing to stop those sort of small pockets of space. He's really versatile for a 3-tech, or he can play nose tackle. I just don't really see any negative. And I know we're being very positive. And this is the thing. I don't want everyone to just think that we're happy clapping and we're saying, oh, everything's amazing. But he signed a 1-year, $10.5 million deal. I expect that if he continues for his 2025 form, I expect that he probably signs a new deal after that. So, yeah, really happy again, adding veteran leadership. And I'll come to you first again on this one. How are you feeling with this?
This is another one. I mirror kind of what you're saying, Adam. I don't know how anybody can be upset with somebody who is legitimately probably one of the best 3-tech defenders we will have had in over a decade. The only concern with him is that obviously he doesn't have the burst. The guy's getting on a bit. I'm okay with that because he will still get penetration. We will have to keep him on a snap count, I think, just to get the best out of him. But you know what? We've got other players that are younger than him who play 3-tech who are going to be learning off a strong 3-tech player. It's another solid signing. And I'm not happy clapping. It's just a bloody good signing. Like, I don't understand. When you look at what he brings, how can anybody be upset? Like, he fits a system that we are going to be playing. We've got a completely different defensive outlook now. So don't go, oh, well, he doesn't fit what the Jets play. You haven't seen what the Jets play yet. Look at the changes that they've done systematically and coach-wise. Fantastic. I might even like this one a little bit better than Davis. I don't like the player better, but I like the selection of what he brings. There you go. Mic drop. That'll go on TikTok.
Yeah. Let's get that clipped up. Steve, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I was happy enough with the deal we gave to Enagbare, and so how can I not be happy with this? I mean, there's not much difference in 1 year, 10.5 or whatever. I mean, the figures are, so how can I sit there and go, that one's okay, and this one, what, I'm not happy? I mean, yeah, like you said, we can't keep liking everything, and there's one coming I'm, not happy about, although it's not the players' fault themselves, but we'll cover that later. But again, with this, yeah, absolutely, it's just what we're looking for, and it chimes as well. Just to come back to, it's really referencing a point you made, but even go back to Minka Fitzpatrick. You spoke about how why bring in a player at that age? We're not in a win now situation. But then, of course, when we were just discussing a few minutes ago, because he will help the younger players get better, and they'll be the ones we're going to have in 4, 5, 6, 7 years' time. This is why we're doing these things. This isn't. Yes, you want to win games now. We want to win games now. It's painful every Sunday having a defeat, looking again at the draft list and going, oh, good, we've moved up a draft place. But wouldn't it be nice to have some fun Sundays for a change? So, yeah, we want that as well. And we've already discussed that the Colts are going to get the first overall draft pick next year anyway, so we're golden. So this is kind of where we're going with this. But I think it's so I'm really pleased with that, and I can't not be happy enough with the other deal we gave. So obviously very happy with this too.
Kayn, thoughts?
Yeah, just added another depth piece, rotational again. At 33 years old, you have your best season. Like, what can you complain about, really? It obviously isn't going downhill yet. So, yeah, it's another good contract as well. So, yeah, really.
Good stuff. Now, I don't want to skate over Andrew Beck. So, Andrew, if you're watching this, I'm very sorry, but I don't think there's an awful lot we can say about a fullback. Andrew Beck re-signed as well. I'm really happy about that. I liked him last season, but there's not an awful lot that needs to be said there.
Yep. He's solid at what he does. Welcome back, Andrew Beck. Next,
we're paying him £1.5 million. Like, let's The next one I find really interesting, and again, we're going to talk about run defending because Dane Belton, as a safety from the Giants, is a very good run defender for a safety. Now, I'll talk about him in general as well. From my thoughts on him, he's got 6 career interceptions. He's got, he's very versatile. He plays deep safety, box, nickel. He plays a lot of special teams. He's got a lot of. Got a really high count on special teams. Again, talking about the run defending, he's got 4 career forced fumbles, 8 TFLs, and he's someone that is strong in a tackle. It just, again, feels like the Jets' free agency is picking up players that can stop the run, but also picking up players that can attack the ball, players that are going to ball hawk. It seems like being the first team in NFL history to have 0 interceptions in a season has actually quite bothered the staff at Florham Park. You would imagine it would, and it probably should. So it's one that I really, really like, to be honest. Again, it's low money, it's low risk, it's another 1-year deal, it's a prove it deal, $6 million. It's really not any risk whatsoever. I'll come to Steve first on this one. Steve, are you a fan of the player? Happy with the deal?
Yeah, I mean, again, I keep saying, but it's all these 1-year deals. It's in many ways hard to be disappointed if it turns out that the player's trash. You just let them go, and that's the end of it. But I don't think he will be. One of the things anybody who's watched games sat next to me will know that I will be throwing my head into my hands when players are missing tackles. It's a huge thing for me. Making the open field tackle makes such a difference. You stop someone. And, I was a little bit of work I'd looked on him. What was it? 4th amongst a bunch of the safeties, 95% tackling efficiency. I mean, I like that as a stat. If nothing else, I like that. Somebody when he tackles basically makes the tackle, which ought to be basic, but often sometimes isn't. So, I like that a lot. Again, it's the 1-year thing. Can't really complain about that. So happy enough with that situation for sure.
Cool. And I'll come to you.
We're going to see some magic in this backfield. That's all I'm going to say. I'm telling you, we've now got 3 safeties that love nothing more than to rotate late. They all like playing deep halves. They like playing nickel. They like kind of scheming up where it's difficult to track. Our defense are just going to have a load of fun with that. You're going to see players where we look like we're in cover 1 and it's going to be something completely different, all because you've got safeties hiding as linebackers. It's going to be fantastic, guys. It's a good pick. Again, you can't complain. I mean, if you are, get off the boat.
Okay. Kayn, anything to
add? I just noticed that he's 39th in solo tackles last year. He was a bit mad for a safety. So yeah, that and just having the versatility that he brings with all the other additions can be a fun one.
Good stuff. Now, what I'm going to do, we need to fly through some of these. So what I'm going to do is the re-signings. I'm going to read all of them out now. Max Mitchell, Michael Walker, and Chuck Okorafor, all re-signed. Absolutely fine with all of those depth pieces. Get them back in the building makes that perfect sense. No problems there. Yeah, cool. So the next one is probably one of the biggest talking points we've got. Another face back in the building. someone that, well, needs no introduction, really, does he? Let's be honest. Geno Smith is a New York Jet, once again. Now, Kayn, I'm going to come to you first because you are wearing the Geno Smith jersey. How are you feeling about this one?
Well, Gino was like the first quarterback I watched when becoming a New York Jets fan. Like I watched the draft, and that's when I become a fan. So it's a bit of a homecoming, and it's a bit, I won't say exciting because of last year, but kind of exciting at the same time to have a competent quarterback, kind of. I'm excited, but I'm not excited. It should be interesting. At least he's got a line. Hopefully, we'll have some receivers coming along from the draft. So should be fun. Nice homecoming.
Lovely. Steve, I'll come to you next. I think we've all got thoughts on this one. I think all of us definitely wanted to talk here, aren't we?
Well, I just, I'm just glad they haven't brought back the first quarterback that I watched playing for the Jets. That was Richard Todd. I'm not entirely sure that's where we're looking to go. I mean, I know we've said age isn't an issue, but realistically, I mean, yeah, Gino. I mean, it's hard. The problem with Gino was, he's sort of coming in on the one hand with Sanchez, who, whilst he was one of those players, I think when you start to look at the stats, never actually seemed to look that good. And then moments just came alive, was so good in the playoffs, at least most of the time. And then, had those great moments. And then, of course, Fitzpatrick comes in and just gives us such fun, which I know we didn't even make the playoffs. And we refer to that as a fun season. I mean, welcome to Jets World. Yeah, we just missed out. That's as good as it's going to get, boys. Enjoy. So I kind of have that with Gino, which is kind of a bit odd. I don't know. I mean, it's tough because what I want to do, and it's me. It's not him. It's me. I've got to put away the Geno Smith that I remember, and I've just got to say we are signing a quarterback who is played in the league, who was won a couple of years ago in Seattle. Obviously, he was didn't go well for him last year, but then behind that offensive line, a lot of QBs are going to struggle. And I just got to look at him and go, okay, and look, we obviously all remember the broken jaw with Emmett Parley and the $600 or whatever it was. And I don't know whether it was or whether it wasn't. I mean, stuff like that just doesn't ever read well, but it's a long time ago. And let's face it, if all of us were hung out to dry on decisions we made when we were 23, 24 years old, or however we was at that point, it's going to be a tough life to get through. So I'm sort of trying to go with that, trying to go, okay, look, here we are. In any case, look, we know what we want to be doing in the 2027 draft. We know where we want to be, the sort of player that we're looking at. We know exactly what we're looking at. So Gino only needs to come in for a year, potentially 2 anyway, and that'll be it. If he's actually okay, that's good. I mean, to be honest, I said the same thing about Justin Fields last year, which was if he's actually any good, we're going to be fine. We're going to have a good season. We're going to enjoy it. And if he's terrible, we're going to get a good draft pick. And okay, we saw what happened. I don't really want to live that again, but I guess realistically, that's what I've got to tell myself. So that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, I get that. What are you thinking?
Dig routes, deep outs, seam throws, play action crosses. That's all the things that Gino does really well. All 4 of them are the main system within Frank Reich's system of tree. So you know what? It's one of those. All we've asked for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years is a quarterback that can play the system. Frank Reich has chosen from the quarterbacks available the veteran that he wants to roll with. I trust Frank Reich. I'm not looking too much into jaw breaking and whatnot. Like Steve said, if you judge everybody on their pasts, 95% of the league would be in prison. But the Browns wouldn't be paying 700 quarterbacks. So, no, with Gino, I think it's one of those. We know what we're getting. We're not getting a superstar. We're getting a quarterback. We're probably getting a slightly elevated Tyrod Taylor. Like,
I think that's a fair point. And look, the way I would look at it is this: what have you done for me lately? Is the NFL. It's a what have you done for me lately type of league. It always has been. I don't care what Gino did 10 years ago, right? He's not that person anymore. We all grow up. We all mature as people. We're getting older. Not always, but most of the time. Look at the recent success of Gino. In 2024, he threw for 4,320 yards. Now, I'm sure everyone on this call knows has a Jets quarterback ever thrown for 4,320 yards in franchise history? Because I can tell you, the record for the Jets is from 1967. It was Joe Namath, and it was 4,007. So Geno Smith in 2024 threw for more yards than any Jets quarterback ever, franchise history. Right. So to a point, it says a lot about the Jets. It doesn't just say a lot about Geno. It does say a lot about the Jets. But that's something to look at. 2025, he got sacked 41 times. Right. Yes, 19 touchdowns, 17 interceptions is bad. But that Raiders O-line was horrific. You saw Ashton Jency, who came into the league with all the hype in the world that running backs ever had, struggle because of the O-line. I'm not saying that Geno's at fault for none of it, but I think he has a much better year with the Jets O-line, which, look, I do think needs plug-in still. I'm not going to sit here and be like all positive about the Jets O-line currently. It needs plug-in, but it is infinitely better than what he dealt with the Raiders last year. So I think that to judge him on last season wouldn't be fair. And also, like we've all said, it's a couple of year contract. If we're bad in 2027, so 2026, sorry, and we're really bad, we might be looking at a new head coach, new regime in 2027 to pick the quarterback. Geno might not be here, he might be a backup, who knows. But Vegas are taking most of his contract. We're paying him just over the vet minimum. Absolutely no risk whatsoever. Worst case scenario, he's bad. Best case scenario, Jets are 8 and 9, 9 and 8 team, and we've got a positive season to hang our hats on going into 2027, where we've got lots of picks. So move on. Now we're going to have to roll through a few of these. Now we picked up Dylan Parham from the Raiders. Now we don't need to go too in depth here. It's a 2-year deal, $20 million. That price to me would suggest he's probably a backup. He might plug a gap to start with. John Simpson obviously leaving, AVT leaving. He might plug a gap. He's played all along the O-line. I think potentially he plugs a gap at guard. But if I'm honest, it's probably the first one I'm a bit more negative on. I think if you look at his PFF scores, he's essentially for every guard rated in the NFL last season, he's right in the middle. He's a pretty average guard. But the overarching point that the Vegas O-line struggled. Has anyone got any really strong thoughts on this one?
All I'll say very quickly is I would imagine that surely they spoke to Geno before, pen was put to paper. And if Geno's looks at an O-line that he didn't have much success by and said, actually, that guy's all right, I guess he's going to know better than any of us. So, yeah, I can, there's no reason to be excited. There's no reason to be overly impressed about it, but there's no reason to be throwing yourself under a bus over it either,
No.
Being average in a really bad line as well, and then adding him to our line, who's got like good tackles, might elevate his game a little bit. You never know.
Yeah, completely fair point. Still young as well, so it's not one that we're going to be too negative about. I'll come on to the first one that I am going to be really negative about, as a pre-warning to all of you. Cade York is signed as the new Jets kicker. I just think there's infinitely better kickers out there. I think a field goal percentage of 69.2 last year in the full 2024 regular season is not good. I really struggle with this one. I think based on the age that he's young, he's only 25 years old. His career long's 59 yards, which is, I suppose, positive. But can someone give me some positivity on this one? Because I think there's just better kickers out there, and I don't really understand it too much.
He's a camp buddy. It's very difficult to look at it on a positive. Cade York was statistically better in college. Coming out, I felt he had more potential. He was on a terrible Bengals team, let's face it. That team is a casserole of nonsense with a great quarterback. My only thing is with him is I think, although his career long is 59, I think he has got a bit more strength in him. I think give him some camp action, maybe with somebody coming in to challenge him a little bit. we may get the better from him. But I agree with you that there is some better ones. However, it's pretty good on kickoff. Just saying. Really good kickoff merchant.
Any more
We're going
thoughts
to
from
be
anyone
a
else?
lot.
Well, my thought is very simple. You've got an extraordinarily reliable kicker. Why do you let him go? What did I miss with this? It's not like he signed some kind of insane deal that you're like, well, we don't want to match that deal. I mean, he's a kicker, for crying out loud. They don't take a lot of money, but they are so important. People, kickers are people too and all that stuff. But it's like you miss that extra point and you are chasing the game. You might be on, instead of 3 points behind, you're 4 points behind. Instead of 2 points behind, you're 3 points behind. You're having to go for a 2-pointer instead of just kicking the field goal, which has got less of a chance. Why on earth are we letting Folk go? To me, that's the bigger question. I don't see it. Yeah, he's old. So what? Doesn't matter. Who cares? The guy's reliable. And when we have suffered, I was in Giants Stadium when I think at the time Folk kicked the points record for the Jets against the Bills. I think. Someone would have to check that out if that was indeed true or I made it up. There was an announcement that we couldn't quite hear because it was the last year of Giant Stadium and they had the big old CRT TVs that you looked at as well. And me and a mate had enjoyed ourselves throughout the day. So, but if that was the case, it was like we saw it. And then that was how long ago was that? He was kicking for us. And I never understand why you let a reliable kicker go. It makes no sense because you're just storing up problems. And as soon as whoever our kicker is misses an extra point next season, everyone, me especially, is going to be going, Folk would have got that. And I just don't see it.
Completely agree. Kayn, any thoughts on this one?
We could have just picked one up in undrafted free agency, undrafted from the draft. Sorry, pointless. Should have kept Folk. That'll do.
I mean, you also have to take into account Folk might not want to stay. New York's not his vibe. Having spoke to him personally, it's not his vibe. He is a little bit more relaxed, small town, like a bit more chill. So, yeah, everybody's always our big bad team don't want to do this. Sometimes it just comes down to the players like, I want to go somewhere else. I want to be somewhere a little bit warmer. I want to go coastal. See you in a bit. So, yeah.
I've not been to Atlanta, but I'm sure it's a lovely place. We'll move on. Now, obviously, when it comes to kickers, I would imagine we probably add another kicker as well, right? It's not just going to be, okay, you've won the job. I think we'll probably add another kicker. We'll probably bring in an undrafted free agent potentially as well. Like, it's not like we're done. This is what it's going to be. It just feels like letting your reliable kicker walk out the door seems like a strange decision. Now, the last free agent we're going to talk about today, before we get into who we think we would bring in out of the ones that are still available, is one that I was really excited about, to be honest. I've got a few friends that are Bears fans that have given me very mixed reviews on him, but Nation Wright. So last season was his breakout season, right? He was fantastic last season. 8 tackles, 5 interceptions. So an interception, for anyone that doesn't know, is when you catch the other team's pass. So we didn't do that last season. We don't really know how to do that.
Are you allowed to? Is that a thing?
Yeah, you are allowed to.
Oh, brilliant.
And you're allowed to do it 5 times if you know I'm right. So 11 pass deflections as well, 2 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, and a defensive touchdown. That is a CV of someone that you absolutely want to add to your room. Now, look, his coverage stuff it's not fantastic, don't get me wrong, but I really, really like him, right? His actual PFF grade was 48 for cornerbacks. His coverage was 63.4, which isn't great. But then his run defending, coming back to run defending, 72.9, which is really strong. So he's someone that can be a good run defender, but he's also just attacks that ball. He's an absolute ball hawk. And if he can replicate even half of last season, if he ends the season with 2.5 sacks for the Jets, picks for the Jets this season, I think all of us would be happy with that. So And I think the kicker on this as well, I thought he'd get more money. I really thought he'd get more money off that season. $5.5 million deal. I really can't see any negative whatsoever with this one. So I'll come
You
to
just
Anne. What do
kind
you
of
think?
hit that there, right? With PFF was 48, right? 48th out of.
Yes. Yeah. For the cornerbacks.
We're talking about a cornerback 2, maybe a cornerback 3 in some teams. So that would be 32 cornerback 1s. He is in the top segment of CB2s. Why is anybody upset again? Look at the detail of what he brings, not what he can't do. Like, we've already explained that our safeties are going to be very, very active. His one main thing is that his hips aren't great. He does lose a bit of does lose it on long separation, but he's got a pretty decent safety room backing him up, which is what they're there for. Agree. If he gets a couple of picks this year, he's going to be a freaking hero.
Steve,
So,
thoughts on this
yeah.
one?
I'm very excited. I suppose looking at the contract that we got him for, again, just 1 year, we're clearly betting on last year is what he's going to be now. This is who he is. And the rest of the league is betting on, no, that was a one-off and he's going to do nothing. We're not interested. I think there's kind of a bit of that going on. So there's so much potential. What's great with him is because of what he's done, because of the way he plays, there's so much excitement. There does appear to be from Bears fans that you sort of read up and speak to, that is the chance that he gives away big plays, might miss something. So that's something we'd have to keep an eye on and try and help him out if we think that that's coming his way. But by the same token, if he starts off well and starts to get his starts to get the eye in, run with it, fella, go. And then, as I said with a couple of the other players earlier, it's like, 1 year deal, do well, have a nice big contract, or go off into free agency and write your own check. So got to be pleased. I can't see anything wrong with this signing at all.
Lovely. Kayn, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, just to add then that 5 interceptions is like tied second for a defensive player in the league for last year. So you can't really moan at that. Having someone who's top tier for interceptions out of the whole league is crazy. And then look at us last season, we couldn't even get one. So it's a nice addition.
Good stuff. Now, what we're going to do, that's the Jets free agency as at time of recording. Now, we'll keep stressing that because time of recording does matter, because when this is published on Sunday, we could have signed other players, but we're recording this on the Friday. We are going to talk now. I'm going to go to each of the guys and ask them for one player that is still available at time of recording that they would like the Jets to sign. Now, I'll start with Kayn on this one. Let's mix it up a little bit. Kayn, who is it that is still currently a free agent that you would like to see the Jets bring in?
I think John Jennings, wide receiver, had a pretty good year last year. 643 yards, 55 catches, 9 touchdowns. Apparently, he's demanding quite a big contract, which is the only problem. That's why no one signed him, and Niners didn't sign him back. But he's just that big-bodied receiver that adds to the room that is non-existent at the moment, I think. So I think he'd do good for us.
I like that. I like that a lot. Obviously, I think the 49ers elected to go and take, Mike Evans, so maybe they thought that Mike Evans is the big body receiver and he's a better player. So maybe the way that they looked at it, but obviously age profile is completely different. So, I like that. Steve, who is a name that you want to bring to the table?
Yeah, Jennings was my number one, but I'll pivot quickly away from and partly with just to say with Jennings, it's just the fact that I don't know what the plans are for the draft, and I don't know who we're looking to bring in at the wide receiver at the draft. So we bring him in if we think we're not going to get who we want, but if we've got these players targeted and actually it's this one, then we don't need to. Obviously, like every Jets fan, we know Aaron Rodgers is out there. So, of course, hang on, I'm not supposed to mention that, was I? Sorry. Listen, I've just had to pivot from where I was going in on a heartbeat. So, but the one I'm going to throw out there just because I actually quite like the player and I'd like to think we could probably get him relatively cheap and he still might be useful for us is David Njoku. I don't think we need a tight end. I'm not saying we need a tight end. Obviously, we're fine, but it's just somebody else, and somebody I think pretty reliable, can make a difference. He'll be an outlet for Smith. It might be a case of bringing him in just in certain situations to get if he's prepared to sign for a reasonable deal. He's missed some games with injury, so the market's hopefully not there for him. If the deal was right, then Joker would be fine for me.
Good stuff. And who have you got?
So there's two left, but I know one of them is going to be yours. So I'm going to switch to the centre. I think as of now, I think Cushenberry's still available. I don't believe he's going anywhere. I think they'll get a deal done, but loved him coming out. I know Fraser would pick him. He's going to be expensive, but he's an awesome centre. But at the moment he's available, he's not going to be. But do you just want to tell everybody about your tight end?
Do you know what? So, of course, if you listen to the last one, I want Dallas Goedert. I think he's a reliable pass catcher. And I look, we have a lot of tight ends. I'm not saying but I do think I think we need one. I do still think like Mason Taylor, I think will be good. I think he'll be fine. I think he'd be like a really good long-term jet. But I do think that a mentor in the room wouldn't be a bad thing for him. Jeremy Rucker, I would like to issue a public apology for, because I didn't mention him last time when we talked about tight ends. I like him, but he's not going to be a reliable pass catcher long term. I still think we add a veteran to that room, so that's why I like Steve's shout of David and Joker as well. But I was actually going to bring forward a different player as well, because I think that I talked about that one quite a bit on the last episode.
Mm.
I quite like the idea of taking a punt on Chris Paul, the guard out of Washington. I think, look, very distinctly probably average as a guard, but I think that depth in that position isn't too bad. He had a bit of a breakout year, and I think that his contract, what he wanted, was a little bit too much to Washington, if you believe all of the rumours. It looks like the Browns are going at him a little bit here and wanting him. His projection's about a 3-year, $21 million contract, but he's still really young. And I think that, like, if you have a depth piece at guard with potential starter, I think that Chris Paul could probably just about give you that. I looked at Rasheed Walker, but I just think that the penalties were an issue last year. He's played most of his career at left tackle. But I do think potentially we probably bring in, more O-line depth. You've got Taylor Decker still out there, Joel Batonio, if you want someone that's, obviously really experienced at guard. So there's still a lot of good players out there. I think it just comes down to money. A lot of players wanting big contracts. I've seen a lot of Jets fans online saying that they want Joey Bosa. I can't really get on board with that at all. But
No.
It's the big thing to be careful of with free agency, and a point that I would want to stress here. Players being available and name value of players, you Stephon Diggs, you Joey Bosa's, people might go, oh, they're probably still really good players. They probably want a lot of money, and a locker room presence matters, and attitude matters.
Hello, Adam here. So we actually got a bit cut off on the end of the recording, so that's why I'm doing this little post-recording video. Now, all I said to the guys was, is there anything that else you want to talk about? Everyone said no, so it's just a bit of an outro. All I can say again is thank you so much. The support on this has been overwhelming so far. We're going to bring out some more podcasts for you coming very, very soon. We absolutely love making this, and we really do want to make this the biggest Jets podcast outside of the States. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll get there. Thanks again.